Have you ever met someone who smiles like nothing's wrong, but something inside them is quietly dying? They laugh when the room expects laughter, nod when the world demands strength. Their words sound light, their eyes almost convincing, but there's a stillness in the way they breathe. A quiet heaviness that lingers when everyone else has left. You've probably seen them before. Maybe at work, maybe in your mirror. The kind of person who keeps everyone else comfortable, who makes jokes so no one sees the cracks forming behind their teeth. The kind who says, "I'm fine," because the truth would take too long to explain, and they know no one's really listening that deeply anymore. There's a strange art to their smile. It's not fake, it's practiced. It's survival. They smile because if they stop, everything they've been holding together might finally fall apart. Because if the world sees you smile, maybe it won't ask questions. And sometimes, that's all you need, just one less question. It's easy to mistake them for the strongest person in the room. They never raise their voice, never cry in public, never break the rhythm of being okay. But inside, there's a storm that never stops moving. A sadness that has learned to whisper instead of scream. You see, some people don't show pain. They wear it, like invisible armor. They carry it through conversations, through mornings, through years. And no one ever really notices because they make suffering look graceful before we begin. Take a breath. And if this already feels like you, stay. Because tonight, we're not here to fix it. We're here to understand it. There's a certain kind of strength people learn when life gives them no choice but to pretend. They wake up, wipe their face, and build the same smile they wore yesterday. Not because they feel fine, but because the world expects them to be. You can see it in the little things. The coworker who laughs too easily after spending half the night crying into their pillow. The friend who makes everyone laugh at dinner but goes home to an empty room that feels louder than any crowd. Or maybe it's you, sitting quietly in front of your phone screen, scrolling through other people's lives, trying to convince yourself that you're okay. Smiling through pain becomes a kind of survival, a way to stay in control when everything else is falling apart. When your heart is chaos and your mind won't stop spinning, that small curve of your lips is the last thing you can manage to hold still. Because if the world sees you smile, maybe it won't ask questions. And sometimes, that's all you need, just one less question. Psychologists call it emotional masking, the conscious decision to hide what you feel so others don't have to carry it. It's not lying. It's protecting. Some people suppress, pushing emotions away on purpose, saving them for later, telling themselves they'll deal with them when it's safer. Others repress, burying feelings so deeply that they forget they ever existed. Both look the same on the surface. Calm eyes, a polite laugh, and I'm fine. But underneath, there's a quiet war. Every unspoken word, every swallowed sob, every forced smile becomes another layer of armor. And soon, you forget who you were without it. We grow up being told not to cry, to be strong, to hold it together. And so we do, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Because strength, as we were taught, means silence. But the truth is, their smiles are stitched with silence. Every thread made from moments they could have fallen apart, but didn't. It's not a weakness. It's a language the world never learned to listen to. This doesn't begin in adulthood. Most people who smile through pain didn't wake up one day and decide to be strong. They were trained, quietly, subtly, long before they even had the words to understand it. Somewhere in childhood, a pattern began. Maybe it was a home where emotions were too loud, where love came with conditions, or where silence was the only safe sound. Maybe every time they cried, someone rolled their eyes. Maybe every time they got scared, someone told them to toughen up. So they learned to shrink their feelings, to hold them in. Not because they wanted to, but because they had to. When a child realizes that their sadness makes adults uncomfortable, they start to edit themselves. They learn that tears bring anger, that truth brings distance, and that the easiest way to stay safe is to smile. Attachment theory calls this anxious or avoidant adaptation, the way small hearts survive in big emotional spaces. When comfort isn't reliable, they start giving comfort instead. When no one comes to soothe them, they learn to self-soothe, rocking quietly in their room, humming to themselves, drawing smiles on their faces even when they don't feel them. It sounds poetic, but it's heartbreakingly practical. Imagine a little girl who falls and scrapes her knee. The pain burns, her eyes fill, but before the tears can fall, she hears, "Don't cry, you're fine." So she laughs instead. A tiny trembling laugh. It says, "See? I'm okay." Or a little boy who wants to tell his father he's scared of the dark, but he sees the disappointment waiting in that stare. So he smiles and says, "I'm brave." That's where it begins. The first performance. The first mask. They learned early that their pain made others uncomfortable, so they stopped showing it. And eventually, they stopped believing anyone would care if they did. From then on, the smile became their passport through life, the safest way to exist in a world that never learned how to hold softness. Because when you're a child, and the people who are supposed to understand you don't, you start learning how to survive in silence. Science has a quiet way of explaining the things our hearts already know. When emotions are suppressed, the body doesn't forget, it just hides. It tucks feelings away into the corners of the nervous system, filing every unspoken fear, every delayed tear, every unfinished argument deep beneath the surface. The brain learns to adapt. When sadness rises, it redirects. When anger sparks, it swallows it whole. The amygdala, the part of the brain that processes fear and emotion, still fires, still sounds the alarm. But the prefrontal cortex, the logical part, steps in and says, "Not now. Hold it together." And so the storm gets contained for the moment, but the human mind is not a vault. It's a landscape. And buried emotions are like pressure beneath the ground, invisible, but always moving. It's the volcano beneath calm waters, the glass cracking under invisible pressure. From the outside, everything looks serene. Inside, the structure trembles. That's the paradox. The calmer they appear, the more chaos they carry. You see it in the person who becomes everyone's emotional anchor, the friend who listens, comforts, advises, but never shares. They seem solid, dependable, endlessly kind. But when they're alone, the silence feels heavier. Their body aches with tension they never talk about. Their chest tightens for no reason. They wake up tired, even after sleeping. That's not weakness. It's physiology. When the nervous system spends too long in suppression mode, the body interprets it as danger. Cortisol, the stress hormone, lingers longer than it should. Heart rate, breathing, muscle tension, all stay slightly elevated. It's like running an emotional marathon without ever crossing the finish line. They don't explode, they erode, quietly, slowly, and yet they still smile, not to deceive, but to survive. It's strange how we call that strength. To hold in tears until the body trembles. To pretend calm while your pulse screams. To be the stable one while quietly coming apart. But if you've ever been that person, the listener, the supporter, the calm voice when everyone else falls apart, know this: your strength is real, but so is your exhaustion. No judgment, no labels, just the truth of what it means to be human, to carry pain so quietly that even your own body forgets how to let it go. We live in a world obsessed with looking fine. Everything, from our smiles to our captions, is carefully adjusted, filtered, and edited until it feels safe enough to show. The modern world doesn't ask, "How are you really?" It asks, "Can you still perform?" We've built a culture where sadness feels like bad marketing. The Instagram smile has become a language, Wide eyes, good lighting, soft laughter. It says, I'm happy, I'm productive, I'm fine. But behind that pixel-perfect calm, people are quietly unraveling. We don't post the breakdowns in the shower, the nights of staring at the ceiling, the exhaustion of pretending to be okay at work. We only post the proof that we're surviving, or at least, performing survival. In psychology, it's called performative happiness. It's not lying, it's self-preservation. Because being part of the crowd means belonging, and belonging feels safer than being honest. We mimic what others display: smiles, jokes, stability. We wear them like a uniform just to fit into the rhythm of a world that punishes vulnerability. And then there's emotional labor, the quiet, draining effort of managing your feelings, not for your own sake, but for others. The way you steady your voice during meetings, soften your tone in texts, hide your anxiety behind polite laughter. It's the constant internal editing of emotion. At work, it's professionalism. At home, it's peacekeeping. Online, it's good vibes only. It's strange. We applaud composure, yet we're dying beneath it. We value control more than connection, appearance more than authenticity. And maybe you've done it too. Smiled so no one would ask questions. Laughed so no one would notice the silence in your eyes. Said, I'm okay, not because you were, but because you were tired of explaining why you weren't. That's the social illusion of fine, a fragile performance we all participate in, applauding each other's masks while hiding our own cracks underneath. And maybe that's the saddest part, not that we wear the mask, but that we all silently agree not to take it off. There always comes a moment when the mask slips. Not because you want it to, but because even the strongest facade has a crack somewhere. It's never the big things that break you, not the heartbreaks or the goodbyes. You've built defenses strong enough for those. It's the small things, the passing comment, the song that plays at the wrong time, the smell of someone you used to know. They wonder why the smallest things hurt the most. But it's because those moments slip through the spaces where your walls aren't watching. They go straight to the softest part of you, the part you thought you'd buried. You might be laughing with friends, and suddenly, in the middle of that laughter, your throat tightens. Your eyes sting. You blink it away, smile wider, change the subject. But something inside you shifts. The air feels heavier. The joke stops being funny. That's the moment the mask slips, just for a second, before you pull it back into place and pretend no one noticed. Or maybe it happens in silence, late at night. You're scrolling through your phone, doing nothing, saying nothing, and then out of nowhere, a wave hits you. The kind that starts in your chest and rises until you can't breathe. You sit up, hands trembling, heart racing, and you can't even name what you're feeling. Sadness? Fear? Loneliness? It's all of them, tangled together. That's emotional displacement, pain that was never expressed looking for a way out. It attaches itself to random moments, innocent words, harmless triggers. Your brain can't hold it anymore, so it leaks, through tears, through anger, through silence. Sometimes someone says something kind, really kind, and it hurts. You feel seen, and that alone becomes unbearable. Because being seen means being known. And being known means they might see how tired you really are. After moments like that, something strange happens, a kind of emotional hangover. Psychologists call it a vulnerability hangover. It's the heavy fog you feel after opening up, even just a little. The sudden urge to take back everything you said, to apologize for being too real. You lie there thinking, why did I say that? Why did I cry? But it's not weakness. It's your heart trying to breathe after years underwater. There's beauty in that moment, even if it feels ugly. Because when the mask slips, for that fleeting second, the truth gets to exist. And though you'll probably pull the smile back on, and no one will ever know, the truth doesn't vanish. It just waits, quietly, for the next small crack of light to let it through. There's something quietly powerful about people who smile through their pain. Not fake smiles, not shallow ones, but the kind that comes from somewhere deeper, from someone who has already walked through fire and learned to stop fearing the smoke. The world often mistakes them for fragile, but if you look closer, you'll see something extraordinary, a quiet resilience that doesn't need to announce itself. They've been broken, yes, but they didn't shatter. They bent, they adapted. They turned their wounds into windows, seeing the world not in black and white, but in shades of understanding. These are the people who notice everything, the shift in someone's tone, the hesitation before a smile, the silence that fills a room. Their pain taught them empathy, not bitterness. It made them better listeners, sharper observers, deeper souls. Because when you've carried your own darkness, you learn how to recognize it in others and to meet it with gentleness instead of fear. Some of them become healers, not in hospitals or clinics, but in the way they talk, the way they sit beside someone crying, the way they know exactly when to say "I understand" and when to say nothing at all. Some become storytellers, weaving their pain into words that make others feel seen. Some become protectors, the quiet ones, who stand between chaos and the people they love. It takes incredible self-awareness to smile after breaking, to still choose warmth when the world taught you cold. That's not denial, that's mastery. The kind that doesn't come from pretending everything's okay, but from realizing that maybe it doesn't have to be. They've learned something most people spend their whole lives running from, that peace isn't the absence of pain, it's the acceptance of it. It's the gentle surrender that says, "This hurt me, but it didn't end me." They smile not because they're fine, but because they've made peace with not being. And in that quiet acceptance, they find a different kind of strength. Not the loud, heroic kind, but the still, steady kind. The kind that doesn't seek attention. The kind that survives quietly, beautifully, completely. But there's a cost to never breaking. A quiet, invisible cost that builds over time, like dust gathering on a shelf you never clean until one day it suffocates you. When you spend years holding everything in, something inside you begins to dull. The laughter feels a little emptier. The colors fade. The world becomes something you observe, not something you feel. You smile because you know you're supposed to, but somewhere deep down, the feeling behind it has vanished. That's the curse of control. The same discipline that keeps you calm also keeps you distant. You become untouchable, not because you're strong, but because you're tired. You stop reaching out, stop hoping anyone will really understand. You tell yourself you don't need comfort anymore. You tell yourself that numbness is peace. But it's not. It's just quiet pain. Psychologists call it emotional burnout when the heart becomes so exhausted from managing, suppressing, and performing that it simply shuts down. You stop reacting, stop crying, stop caring. It's the brain's last defense mechanism. If feeling hurts too much, it decides not to feel at all. And then there's the loss of authenticity. You start confusing who you really are with the version of yourself you've shown the world for so long, the strong one, the calm one, the one who never breaks. You stand in front of the mirror and the reflection smiles back, polite, practiced, perfect. But the eyes tell another story. A story of exhaustion, of longing, of someone who's been performing stability for so long that they forgot what chaos or joy ever felt like. It's strange how loneliness hides best inside people who seem most composed. They move through life gracefully, collecting praise for their strength, but no one ever stops to ask, "Are you tired?" And maybe that's what hurts the most, to be admired for the very thing that's killing you. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you let yourself truly cry? Not the quiet tears you hide in a pillow, but the kind that leave you shaking, the kind that strip the mask away and make you feel raw, human, alive. Because sometimes, breaking isn't the end of strength. It's the beginning of feeling again. And without feeling, all that control, all that calm, becomes nothing more than a beautiful cage. But there comes a moment, subtle, almost imperceptible, when something inside begins to loosen. It's not a grand breakdown, not an explosion of emotion. It's gentler than that, like a knot slowly untangling, or a breath finally being exhaled after years of holding it in. That's the beginning of healing, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet one. The kind that starts when you stop trying to outrun what hurts. When you sit still long enough to hear what your own heart has been trying to say all along. For some, it begins in silence. A few minutes at night when they turn off the noise, close their eyes, and just feel. No distractions, no pretending, no fixing, just sitting with the truth of being human. For others, it starts with words, scribbled on paper at 2 a.m, shaking hands writing what lips never said. Journaling is not weakness. It's a dialogue with the parts of yourself you silenced. And sometimes it begins with courage, the quiet, trembling courage to tell the truth to one person. Not to the world, not online, just one soul who will listen without fixing, without judging. That's what psychologists call emotional validation. It's the process of acknowledging that what you feel is real. Not too much, not too little, just real. You don't need permission to hurt. You don't need proof to justify your sadness. You just need to allow it to exist. Healing doesn't always mean smiling again. Sometimes it means allowing the smile to fade, to let your face finally rest from holding it for too long. Because the real strength isn't the smile, it's the courage to let it fade. It's the gentle act of saying, I don't have to be okay all the time. It's allowing your body to release the tears it's been saving, to forgive yourself for the moments you weren't strong, to whisper to yourself the words you needed to hear years ago. It's okay to feel. That's not regression. That's integration. When vulnerability meets awareness, you stop being divided between the version of you that hurts and the version that hides. You become whole again, imperfectly, beautifully, honestly whole. And it doesn't happen all at once. It comes in waves, moments of openness followed by days of silence, steps forward and backward. But slowly, gently, life begins to return. Colors feel brighter. Music feels closer. The air feels lighter. And one day, you catch yourself smiling, not to hide, but because, for the first time in a long time, you mean it. In the end, there are no neat answers, no sudden awakenings, no cinematic moments of clarity, just quiet acceptance, the kind that lives in the pauses between breaths. We spend so much of life trying to look fine, to hold ourselves together, to prove that pain can't touch us. But maybe real peace isn't in appearing strong. Maybe it's in learning to live gently with what still hurts. The people who smile while broken are not liars. They are survivors. They've learned to build beauty out of ruin, to find grace in grief, to speak kindness even when the world has been unkind to them. They understand that life doesn't wait for healing. It keeps moving, and so they move with it, carrying both pain and peace in the same fragile hands. If you've ever been that person, the one holding everyone else up while quietly falling apart, I hope you know that your softness is not weakness. It's proof that you kept your heart open in a world that tried to harden you. You are not fragile because you feel. You are human because you do that, so don't rush to fix what hurts. Don't apologize for the cracks. Let them stay. Let them breathe, because that's where the light gets in. And the next time you see someone smiling a little too brightly, pause. Look beyond the surface. Listen between their words, because sometimes that light, that beautiful, steady, impossible light, is holding back the dark.